We are going to have, I'm expecting quite a few more people to be joining within the next few minutes. Usually people start joining in at closer to the hour. So we're going to wait a little bit for everybody to start joining. And we already have Steve Golko from Luxury Cruise Connections here already joining us. And we have Denise.
Hi, everyone.
Denise is our marketing manager, and she is co-hosting this with us. And Audrey, we're gonna change Audrey's name. Let's.
Oh, it's back to Audrey.
Yeah, it's Audrey, but we're gonna say Audrey Silversea. This way, people know who you are. How about that?
Perfect. I love all this Zoom stuff. It's really interesting. Much better than just a webinar, I think. Lots more fun.
Yeah. We have Carolyn Lavelle. Thank you for joining us. John, thank you for joining us. Yeah, we can't hear you, Señorita Audrey.
Oops, sorry.
How are you, Audrey?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Excellent. I saw you made a booking recently. Thank you for that.
Oh, you know I always love you guys.
Well, we love you too. We
Audrey,
do.
how do you like the picture of our new building?
Hey, Carlos, that looks good.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh.
And with the rainbow.
Well, I've seen it from when it was a parking lot. So now I can't wait to go in the building. It's going to be amazing.
Remember,
awesome.
it's been what is it, 5 years since we started?
Yeah.
We're finally moving in.
Has it been that much long?
About 5 years. The project has probably been on for about 6 years. And
no, really?
Yeah, we had with getting all the permits and removing the tree. And
no, I know, but when did they actually begin?
Breaking ground.
4 years ago, they started construction. About 4 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And we're finally moving in next week, Audrey. Next week is going to be your date.
All right. The official. Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah. We would have we would have had good champagne, but they were playing with it yesterday.
They were playing with. What was it? Steve?
Oh no, I said we would have had maybe some good champagne, but they were spraying everybody yesterday on
it. Yeah, so we received our TCO yesterday.
Wow.
So we were celebrating yesterday with champagne here. We were a little careless with the current office, given the fact that it's going to be destroyed in a few months.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's going to become a school.
Nice. Very nice.
Well, congratulations. I know you guys worked hard, and I know it's been a long time, but I remember before you guys broke ground.
Yeah, we were talking about it. It's been quite a journey. If we're finally next week, it's going to be when we're moving in.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So I wanna. In the meantime, I wanna start welcoming some of the new attendees. Caroline, how are you? Robert, how are you? Robert Duncan, how are you? How you doing? Let's see. Who have I not said hi yet? Lavelle, Stephen, Elizabeth, I have a phone number which I can't recognize the name, but welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you.
And Joe, I don't think you ever met Denise yet, did you?
I met Denise. We did a session for the team.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did.
We had one of these calls. Hi, Denise. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Welcome, Penelope. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
Any luck yet?
everybody.
David, how are you, David? David Zimmerman, how are you? John Johnson, how you doing?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Peter Crow can't find his email that has the link to join. Do you have any way to send it to him again?
Sure. Can you send me his email address in our chat and I will email it to
Can
you?
I just tell it to you?
Yeah.
Yes, spell it to me, please.
Peter M. Crow, PeterMcrow
Mm-hmm.
@gmail.com.
I will email it to him right now.
Okay, I'll tell him.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to start welcoming all of our attendees that are joining slowly but surely. We are going to be starting at about 5:04, 5:05. We're going to allow a few more minutes for everybody else to start joining in. We are very thankful of all of you that are joining us today, and thank you for being here with us. And during today's conversation, we're going to have an opportunity to ask a lot of questions. We have Joe Leon from Silversea, and I'm going to do, Joe, you're going to do an official introduction in just a couple of minutes, and Audrey, and then from the LCC, from the Luxury Cruise Connections team, we have Denise, our marketing manager, we have Steve Golko. You're going to recognize us because right next to our name, it says Luxury Cruise Connections, and right next to Audrey's and Joe says Silversea. And,
Hi, Larry.
Yeah, Dave.
Hi, how are you?
Oops, I'm going to mute Steve.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't want.
There's Steve.
Yeah, he's he's always working. He's always taking care of his clients. It's a good thing. Can't blame him for doing that. And anyway, so we're going to have an opportunity to ask a lot of questions. We have a couple of poll questions prepared that we're going to be sharing with you guys, throughout our event today, so that we can engage and learn a little bit more about you all and what you like and so forth. We are expecting a few more participants today, and as I said, we're going to start at around 5:04, 5:05. And I'm just very thankful of having you all here. Many of you, I recognize many of your names because I see your names in our system all the time. I know that many of you have great relationships with many of our expert advisors here at Luxury Cruise Connections. And many of you have probably never done business with us before, but have probably been receiving our emails for quite some time. And so this is going to be an incredible opportunity for us to get to know each other, for you guys to learn more about Silversea, what Silversea stands for, and what Luxury Cruise Connection stands for. We have Tom DeRiches, our Director of Sales, joining here today as well. Hello, Tom.
Good to see you, Tom.
And we have, we have a lot of names I recognize. Let's see. Welcome, Ray, Dean, Elaine.
We got some past passengers of Silversea here. Anybody?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, quite a few.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you all.
It's the Silversea, they're the cruise line.
Thank you.
That's very nice of you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that very much.
Hello, Jazz. Jazz is also from Luxury Cruise Connections. Thank you for joining us, Jazz.
Hey.
I'm sure Jazz should recognize a few of the names here. Sure, Tom. Tom, your good old, great, loyal Robert Dice is here with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Maybe we could do a group cruise together with everybody. Wouldn't that be fun?
Wouldn't it be fun?
I love it. Now we all met, right?
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start kind of welcoming everybody. And as I said, okay, so let's make it a little bit official here. Welcome everybody to our very unique and very exclusive Silversea Q&A Zoom call with Joe Leon. And I'm going to allow Joe Leon to introduce himself in a second, and Audrey Corso from Silversea. I want to welcome everybody that is attending today, everybody that has taken the time to join us. We appreciate this very much, not only because it's a great opportunity for us to share a lot of information that we want to share, but it also allows us to connect with our people, connect with our clients, connect with our future clients, and interact at a different level that allows us to kind of show the human side of our companies and of everybody. So welcome for being here. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be starting right now. This is going to be the dynamics of today. Joe is going to take the lead in just a few seconds, and he's going to share a lot of information about Silversea. We are then going to, throughout Joe's very short presentation, we're going to ask you guys a few poll questions as we go. We're going to ask everybody to remain muted during the next few minutes, and then very, very soon, we're going to enable the mics for everybody to start asking questions. If you do have some questions throughout the little presentation that you want to ask, the chat is available for you guys to write your questions, and please know and feel sure that we will go back to each one of those questions and we'll read them out loud so that we can make sure we get answers. So feel free to write your questions in the chat, or at the end, feel free to just jump in and unmute yourself and ask your questions. So with that, I want to welcome everybody, and I want to also thank and welcome our Luxury Cruise Connections advisors that are here. There's many, I see a few names that have joined us today. You will recognize the Luxury Cruise Connections advisors and team because you'll see the @Luxury Cruise Connections next to their name, and you will see Silversea right next to Joe and Audrey's name. So with that, Joe, please introduce yourself. Who are you?
Great. Thank you, Carlos. Well, if you look at my business card, it says Vice President of Field Sales for North America, but I think these days it should read among the first to blame. And with me on this session here, we have Audrey Corso, who works closely with you and your team, and you and I work closely together as well, as Luxury Cruise Connections is one of our most important partners in the South Florida area for sure, and amongst one of our top virtuoso partners. And Audrey Corso, our Director of Sales for South Florida, joins us on the phone call here too to lend her expertise and knowledge wherever she can and bail me out wherever she can. So I really wanted to just start, Carlos, if I may, just have a few moments. I think many times customers ask us what separates us from some of the other luxury cruise lines and what makes Silversea a unique voyage and experience in and of itself. And there are many, many similarities between us and the other luxury cruise lines, but there are three pillars that I think that are very important for us to discuss and just focus on just quickly, and then if you don't mind, we can move on into start answering some questions and let everyone know where we are and how excited we are to set sail soon.
Awesome.
Great. So the first thing I would tell you that separates Silversea from every other cruise line in this industry is destinations. And that sounds a bit silly because we're in the business of taking folks to places. But the truth is we go to more than double anyone. In any sector of the business, any market of the business. And as a luxury brand, we do so in an extraordinary standard. But you could see here on this map just how much of the globe we actually do cover. I mean, really, if land meets ocean, we take you there at some point. And we want you to look at these red dots. That is what we call our expedition product, where we take you off on an exploration ashore and everything's included. And the white dots represent what we call classic cruising, where we take you to all of the important and main places that you are most interested in visiting. And, I show this picture as often as I can because it really is the best way for me to explain what I mean when I talk about destination differences with Silversea. This is where we leave with the small ships from London. We sail from the Tower Bridge. You're tied right up to the Belfast. Like this, we've got examples all over the world. We pull right into St. Petersburg and dock at the English embankment outside of the Hermitage. We pull into Seville instead of busing you from Cadiz. And most of our ships are small enough and narrow enough to make the turns up most of the major rivers in Europe. We invest in this itinerary experience and this itinerary immersion. It is absolutely sacred to us, and it is the number one focus when we plan our itinerary. And I could tell you, I did this last June. I didn't give this enough credit. This is a really, really neat experience to go through here and have them open this bridge. They seldom do it now for cruise passengers. They're just too big. And with the big ships, we leave from Greenwich. So just know we try to avoid the big industrial piece ports as much as possible. It's not the experience that you're looking to invest in, and we know that. And then our fleet, right? We've got destination is our focus, and how we take you there is important. We take you there in this unrivaled standard, this beautiful luxury fleet that is made up of 5 classic vessels, what is now 3 expedition vessels, soon to be 4 as you see our growth here for 2020. We are yet to take delivery of the new Silver Moon. That'll happen in September. We just took delivery of the Silver Origin. We're the first cruise line to take delivery of a new ship during this very weird time and pandemic. We're proud, and we are eager to set sail with her. But this is the fleet that will take you to all of those beautiful and wonderful destinations. And then the last thing I would tell you about is our inclusive nature. Not only does it offer an experience that you can just enjoy as you see and envision, but what you didn't expect was the high value proposition that an inclusive product can bring to the equation. And in comparison to where you may be sailing on premium lines that are not all inclusive, when we start to really add the value of having all of these inclusions, not to mention that we are all small ships, maximum 600 passengers, most of them have private verandas, they're all ocean views, and they're all considered suites. Gratuities are included, Wi-Fi, butler service in every category. We're the only cruise line to do so. Wine and spirits throughout, and then of course, in-suite bar service and the specialty dinings are included throughout. So, and then when you go on expedition, even your exploration and a complimentary parka or backpack, depending on the destination that you visit, is included. So the 3 things I want you to remember about Silversea that makes us different is really, it's the destinations that we take you to, the number of them that we go to, and how we visit them is different than everyone else. We do it on the largest luxury fleet at sea, and we offer you some of the most unrivaled value at sea. And you can speak to our friends at Luxury Cruise Connection so that they can share with you what that experience is to move up into this next section of the market. So that's us, Carlos, in a nutshell, I guess.
Wow, that was a quick presentation.
Yeah, well, you asked me to keep it quick, so I wanted to make sure we didn't spend too much time. I mean, you know, we could always. I've got lots of pictures of penguins and seals that you can certainly look at, but I think your customers are here for information on the industry. Yeah,
and we are going to get to that, you know, to a little bit of that as well, because you know a lot of our guests and a lot of the people that are here today, I know, are going to be very interested about learning, you know, more about what Silversea has to offer, you know, as an experience, right, in general. I just want to say, you know, our relationship with Silversea is, you know, it's been how many years? I don't know. For the existence of this company, we've had an incredible relationship with Silversea.
Yeah.
And I must say, the one thing that I can vouch for is the customer feedback that we get from Silversea is amazing. It's just absolutely fantastic. You know, there's a lot of uniqueness to what you offer, and I would love to kind of start the conversation so that you can talk a lot more about the uniqueness of the product, of the hardware, of the, you know, of the service, etc. But you know, from the perspective of you know the cruise agency, right? We love offering your product because we know that any guest that we put on a Silversea ship is going to come back raving about it. The experience is fantastic.
Thank you, Carlos, because, you know, first off, your partnership is important to us, and we make sure that we take great care of that partnership, and part of that is making sure that we're delivering the promises that you're making on our behalf. So thank you for continuing to make those promises, and thank you to the men and women on board the ships that are really delivering them. It's something that is it's important. You know, we talk about our food, our service, our ships. We've really been talking about destinations because we feel that the food, the service, the staff, and we feel we're the best in class. But you know, we feel that's a lot of what we're supposed to do. That's really what the expectation is. And unfortunately, this industry's kind of lost its way with what these viewers here came to join us to learn about, which was destination-rich content, immersion, and real cultural experiences when they go abroad. And I think that the experiences as a whole have been a bit diluted, not on our brand, I think as an industry as a whole. So it's nice to see that we are going back to what's most important to your customers. And those that joined us here, they didn't call to hear about my great food. They've had great food before, I'm sure.
So I want to, why don't we start the conversation talking a little bit about the hardware itself? So
Yeah.
Let's talk about the hardware in general. What you, I don't want to call them the old ship, but the
classic. Well, yeah.
Ships, and then the new ship.
Yeah, I mentioned, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to skip back 2 slides here
Yep.
so I can get back to that. Sorry for the visual effect. And show you the fleet slide, because you're right. I think it's a diverse and interesting fleet that we have, and it's the most diverse in the industry. That I can assure you. And so I mentioned we have a classic fleet and an expedition fleet, and what that means is the accessible world in which each vessel has. Expedition has access to virtually everywhere, including the polar regions, and then of course the classic. Vary in size. So let's just go through that for just a second. You see here, these 2 larger ships, they're not quite sisters, but they're more like cousins, because we've built them almost identically, even though they were several years apart. But the Muse and the Spirit carry no more than 608 guests. 596 on the Muse and 608 on the guests, each of which offers your customers 40,000 gross registered tons. Now, to us in the cruise business, that means fairly small ships, but when you put 600 passengers on there, what it means for your customers here is a tremendous amount of space, personal space, and a great sense of space throughout the entire vessel. And that really holds true through all of our vessels. You look at the Whisper and the Shadow, each hold 388 guests, but are 30,000 gross registered tons, respectively. And then you have the Wind and the Cloud, which hold 296 and 254. Now, the Silver Wind, everyone should know, next August is going in for a major refurbishment, and she will be transformed into an expedition ship so that she can join these 4 down here as an expedition vessel. And what's great about the Wind and the Cloud is at having them as expedition, we're able to push and deploy them in 2 very different ways. We can deploy them to itineraries where we feel there's an expedition that can be had, but we can also deploy them to traditional classic itineraries and get a little further up those rivers and sail through the Tower Bridge, as you saw in that previous photo. And we do that on these vessels. So they grant a tremendous amount of versatility for us to be able to deploy. And again, stay true to that promise where destination is our focus, and it's really what we believe is going to drive the difference between us and everyone else. And then you have the Explorer and the Origin here. The Explorer is our polar ship. She's going to go from Antarctica to the Arctic and back down. We've got her in New Zealand this year, doing a sub-Antarctic from New Zealand, sailing to the Ross Sea and some very, very new places that I just recently learned of as we were going through the itinerary deployment a couple of years ago, as has been my experience working for this company for sure. And then of course the Silver Origin, which I mentioned we just took delivery of. She's 100 passengers. That's the maximum we're allowed to operate in the Galapagos. And the Silver Origin was the first delivered now in 2020. And she is our first new expedition build. And I've got some photos to show you of what she looks like, if you care to see them.
Yeah, and absolutely, I want us to get to that, because I think you're being way too humble about it. I mean,
thank you.
The Origin is just the absolute best, by far most luxurious experience you'll ever have in the Galapagos. I mean, it's and it was delivered, what was it, 2 months ago?
Yeah, just a little under 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, just 6 weeks ago. Yeah, and interestingly enough, the Rotterdam, the shipyard, the Hoops in Rotterdam, you got to hand it to those guys. They never shut down. Actually, shipbuilding operations did not skip one day. What we found as our biggest obstacle were the furniture and some of the materials that we had purchased from our manufacturers in Italy, which, as you know, were under a lockdown for the better part of 2 months. So we're still waiting for a few odd ends, chairs and tables, believe it or not, but the ship is ready and she's ready to go. We're excited.
That's amazing. And so do we have confirmation of first sail date for the Origin?
You know, we're hoping that it's going to be October 1st. We feel that the Galapagos is one of those places where we're going to have more control to sail to. And it's going to be one, you know, it's a small place. We're operating just 100 passengers. The risk of infection is nearly none because we're visiting uninhabited islands. And so we feel really confident that that product is going to be among the first to deploy, quite frankly, anywhere in the world for any cruise line. So we feel strong about our position there. But again, really no final, as you know, set sail date. You know, I could say this: I'm proud of my industry. I'm proud of its leaders for working together and coming together and really working with our government and our government agencies. And the CDC is really it's what we need right now is the set sail from the CDC. And we're working closely to get that done, and we're confident we're going to get it done. We know that we're a safe industry. We know we have your support, your customer support, and the world's support to allow us to let us in. We just need to know what the rules are and what the standards are that they're going to need us to sail under, and we're going to make sure we work hard to deliver those and set sail safely and return safely.
So I'm gonna want to get back to that conversation in a second.
Yeah,
but before
sure.
we get into the whole conversation about booking, sail date, CDC, and safety and all that, because I know many of our clients and attendees tonight really want to know a lot about it, I want to spend just a few more minutes talking about this slide that we have up here, because I haven't personally ever been in the Galapagos before, but I know that it's definitely up there in my bucket list, because it's one of those destinations that flies under the radar a little bit more than it should, and it offers so much. Why do you like Galapagos so much, Joe? Because I know it's one of your personal favorites too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just the one place where you can go, and it really is uninhabited, and you're still in somewhat civilization. I mean, we can go to Antarctica and there's no one there either, but this is really remote, and it really is a place where you can see time stand still. You could see the evolution of these animals and these breeds actually right in front of you as you go from island to island. The differences are small but important in how they were able to evolve for their survival. And incredible. I mean, you have a species of tortoise on one island that doesn't have the same hitch in his shell because the vegetation grows a lot shorter or lower. But on the other island, that tortoise, that large land tortoise, has evolved a hitch in his shell so that he can raise his neck higher above so that he can now eat the vegetation that grows a little higher on the trees. So it's just extraordinary. And again, it's one of those places you can actually see this. It's almost as if time stood still. You can see why Mr. Darwin, Sir Darwin, jumped to his immediate theory of evolution and was able to well document and almost prove it. Just by visiting those islands. So really, really cool place. And the animals are completely unafraid. I mean, we are there as researchers and part of the landscape. That island belongs to them. And you will have the sea lions come right up to your snorkel mask. You will have the sea turtles swim to you, not away from you, as they do on other beaches. It's really a pristine and beautiful, beautiful place.
And for people that are normally concerned about expedition cruising because of how hard it'll be, like how long the walks are going to be, or they have to be in good shape, or those type of questions. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, you see this gentleman here in a cane. I mean, he's making the walk okay. We have activities for those that are looking for a little bit more of a rough activity and a long hike. We have beach combing activities. We have light hikes through the wilderness and through the forest up the paths so that we can see some of the native species. You will see all of the birds that you come to the Galapagos to see on either one of our itineraries that you go to. We work hard to get you in the water with the famous Galapagos penguin, which is one of the few penguins that you will find this far north in the world. And so we have such a unique offering. You do swimming, snorkeling. There are activities for all. And I've been saying for a long time, our customers have stopped investing in large diamond rings and new Mercedes-Benzes. And a few years back, they started to really invest in experiences. and experiences with their families. And to see multi-generational families on an itinerary like the Galapagos is becoming more and more common, because it really is a captive place and everyone is mesmerized.
And so aside from it being the newest and most luxurious ship in the Galapagos,
Yeah,
why would anybody want to? Wow.
Here she is. Yeah, you know, don't be concerned about the one lifeboat. Remember, there's only 100 passengers, so everybody. It's really the space on board the ship is what's most amazing, you know, and I love that about us, because we are a luxury cruise line, and that is your customer's expectation, is that it's comfortable and it's opulent, and as you can see, we've delivered that, and it's spacious, and it's 100 passengers is all that you have on this ship, but you can see the space that we've been able to create. This is base camp. This window back here, this large digital wall, is interactive, and you can go on and touch it. It'll show you where you're going tomorrow. You can touch the map of the island, and it'll show you where you can find different colonies and species of birds. Click on that. It'll give you bios of the birds. So we've tried to make this as really interactive as possible. So much of what we do with Expedition is educational, and the people on board the ship are all Ecuadorian. They were born in the Galapagos. Galapagonian guides must be Galapagonian guides, all certified by the National Park to take you into the Galapagos. These are the world's biggest experts on what you're going to see and find on these islands. So really great. And look at this observation lounge. Just imagine, you know, it's not uncommon that we'll sail by one of these islands and there'll be an erupting volcano. Just imagine in the pitch dark of night, just seeing a glowing volcano from a room like this would be incredible. And then of course we stayed true to our promise of space with the suites. This is a standard suite. You can see here we wanted to make bring the destination in as much as possible. So here's a window. From the bathroom, there's a partition that can be opened, and you now have a window that looks out onto the ocean and through into your balcony. And on some of our superior verandas, we have L-shaped bathrooms, really neat, where you actually have a window facing out to the ocean from your shower. I was concerned I'd be interrupting some migrating patterns, so we verified. It's mirrored glass. Everything, all animals are safe. But yes, it's a really unique feature, something that none of the other cruise lines have done. And I really love that we were able to bring so much of that destination back into the ship. Did I lose you, Carlos?
Oh, we can't hear him.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, we are going to have an opportunity to ask a lot of questions at the end, and to read a lot of the questions that are coming on the chat. But there is one that is particularly relevant to this conversation, which is, with 100 people on the ship, how do you decide who gets to what on the islands, since they control the size of the groups?
Yeah, you all go on the island. So what's beautiful about our particular expedition product in the Galapagonian government and the National Park of the Galapagos allows no more than 100 visitors on any one of their islands on any given day, which means that on any one of our itineraries, you can guarantee, and you are guaranteed, that when we pull up to that particular island, you will be the only group of visitors going ashore that day from any cruise line, which makes the Galapagos, again, another really unique piece of that, which is why there aren't very many operators in the Galapagos. You can't just say you want to set sail to the Galapagos and negotiate with the government to let you in. There hasn't been a new license approved in the Galapagos in almost 30 years.
And so, okay, so we got that covered, and obviously I think that nobody can deny that, you know, the product, the hardware for the Galapagos is spectacular. Now the service for those that have never sailed in Silversea before, you know, talk about English butler service. I mean, marble bathrooms. I mean, you have you're not going to have a more luxurious, personalized experience. Joe, do you have any particular comment you want to make about the service itself and why is it so unique?
You know, I think the best way I can describe it, you know, I like to say we're a family-owned cruise line, but that's not what makes us a family business. Our customers and the interactions they have with our crew, that's what makes us a family business. I mean, it's so impressive to me when I do ship tours, and many of your staff here on this call have been on ship tours with me on the Silver Spirit, and they can tell you, we will stand at the gangway during a ship tour for no more than 2 or 3 minutes before a crew member, a passenger boarding the ship through the gang member is greeted by a passing crew member. Mr. Smith, Dr. Wilson, and a hug, and oh my goodness, I haven't seen you since Singapore. How are the kids and their children by name? And I mean, that's the best way I can describe my crew. Are they well trained? They're the best trained crew in the world. Are they going to give you service? They're going to give you the fastest and best service in the world. But what makes them different is how they care about you, really, and the relationships that they build with these people are genuine, and the experiences that they share are genuine. They're going to some of the most amazing places in the world. To see the Aurora Borealis with someone is a special experience. And then to do it again and sail and see something else in Singapore and another voyage with a chance encounter because that he happened to be a waiter on that ship as well. I mean, I can tell you, stories like this and examples like this with our past passengers, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. There's a reason why our top guest has sailed 2,500 nights. Sorry, go ahead, Audrey.
No, with every single guest really is treated the same, because every single guest, no matter from the top to the bottom on a Silversea cruise, is getting the same service. They're getting a cabin steward and a butler in every single category, not just the top categories. So really, everybody feels like they're getting the same service. It's like more like a country club atmosphere than it is being on a cruise ship feel. You know, you're getting open spaces. You've got big public areas throughout the ship. We're social distancing already. On a 40,000-ton ship on Silversea, which is our biggest ship, you're going to have all of this space. And on other cruise lines, that size of ship is holding over 1,250 passengers. So there's a huge difference with taking a Silversea ship. It really is. The experience is different. The experience of getting on and off the ship, your dining experiences on these new ships that we've built 8 different restaurants to choose from. There's no main dining room anymore, and you have to sit with the same people. So you have a 7-day cruise, you're going to 7 different restaurants on your cruise. On this ship, you have outside dining at the grill. We have specialty restaurants on some of our select ships, La Dame. So you have that experience with a wine experience extravaganza, pairing it with the foods. So there's lots of different experiences on board the ship, and lots of options. The size of your cabin is the difference on Silversea too. An average size cabin on our new ships is 387 square feet. Walk-in closets, marble bathrooms. I mean, you're not getting that. You can walk into our closet, and some of the rooms you see on some of the ships, that is the size of their room, our closet. So you're getting a nice size room. You take a silver suite on Silversea, it's almost the size of a small apartment, or maybe it's actually bigger than a small apartment in New York City. Your living space, your dining space, your bedroom, so you have a great opportunity. You're getting service, if you wanted, course by course, served to you in your suite by your butler if you didn't want to go out one evening. So there's all kinds of options out there. Unique experiences. We want you to come back with that wow, so that when you do come back, the next time you're coming back with your next door neighbors, your friends, your family. On this new ship, the Silver Origin, we do take children, by the way, on our ships. We don't get a lot of them. The most we do get would probably be in the Galapagos during the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. But they're really well-traveled kids. They are, they're typically with their grandparents. They're leaving parents at home. They're not buying them an iPad for Christmas anymore. They want to buy them something that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. The experiences that I took my daughter on, she'll never forget when she was 12 and 13 years old. So, I mean, it's a wonderful experience, and that you'll never forget. And so I truly believe small ship is the way to go. The experience is great. The food is excellent. It's a destination. And where we go in our destinations, you could say you've been to Europe 5 times on a cruise ship. But when you get on a Silversea cruise or you look at our itineraries, there's ports of call you've never heard of before. We're going to those ports that the big ships don't go to. So that's something you have to remember. We're not in crowds and crowds of people. Maybe in certain embarks and debarks, but the rest of your cruise is going to be totally different.
Oh,
So
I think Audrey deserves a raise after that.
I'm very passionate about small ship cruising. That's all I've ever done. So
of course. I want to, Joe, if you don't mind, can you go back to the fleet image for a second? I want to just point a couple of things out real quick. So most of your ships have been fully refurbished, right? So
all of them have been fully.
Sorry, all of them have been fully refurbished. That's right.
Good question. So some of the ships have. We started with in 1994. The Cloud was our inaugural vessel in '94. She's seen dozen refurbishments since she was launched in '94. The most recent was in 2018 when we converted her to Expedition. And what we did was we stripped her down to the steel Carlos and pretty much rebuilt her from the inside and the outside out. So we reinforced the hull, changed all the windows, make sure she's safe for travel in polar regions. And then we actually tore down the walls and built more silver suites. We brought the occupancy. You can see the difference in the occupancy between the Wind and Cloud is 296 to 254. Well, that's because we contracted the occupancy on the Cloud to make way for larger silver suites, a few more larger silver suites, and also to keep us right around the 250 passenger mark, so that it allows us the maximum number of landings in the polar regions when we do visit, because the plan is to take her to Antarctica. And the Wind is going to have that same refurbishment. Now, all of the other ships go under a regular refurbishment. The Whisper, most recently, she's our world cruise ship, so always in December, she goes in for 2 or 3 weeks. It's important we keep her really, really up to shape. Silver Shadow went through an incredible refurbishment in December of 2019. So she just saw one. The Origin is brand new. The last refurbishment of the Explorer was around May of 18. May of 18, we also split the Spirit in half, added a 49-foot midsection, and then welded her back up, used some good plumber's tape, and we floated her back out. And she's delivering some of the best satisfaction scores in the entire fleet. And of course, the Silver Muse was delivered to us, and 17 has already gone through a refurbishment in 19. You know, our regular schedule for refurbishments is we get the ships in there every 18 to 24 months for a couple of weeks at a time. And if it's needed for a month or 2, we certainly take it and we invest. It's important that these ships are to the standard your customers expecting. And we invest a lot in making sure that promise and standards delivered.
And yeah, I do want to point out, you know, when you guys released the Muse, and as soon as we had guests sailing on the Muse, it just really reimagined the experience on Silversea. I mean, not to say that the experience on every other ship was amazing, but this
I think you make a good point. Sure, you know, we started 25 years ago in a different time when I think the expectation of luxury was different. I think when passengers walked into a luxury space, they expected it to look a certain way. And you could tell we were very Italian back then. You know, we had a lot of rich woods and maroons and real rich reds and gold. And that was beautiful. In 1994 and in the 2000s, these ships were unrivaled. But I think the luxury customer has changed a bit. I think that the expectation of luxury has changed. I think it's more on expectation on experience, so much so as opulence or what type of material is being used. I think comfort is a big part of it now. So we had to change with the times. And you'll find that we lightened our color palette. We started to use more of the nautical blues and the really, really bright greens and the grays and the contrast between the grays and the greens and how pretty they look. And you'll see that color scheme throughout, and you saw that with some of the pictures that I showed you in the Origin, and what those colors did and those lighter colors did for what was already a spacious ship, opened those spaces up even more.
So and so that's the important thing to highlight. So the experience on any Silversea sailing is going to be very similar in terms of the service that you receive, but the main difference between the smaller ships and the Muse, the Spirit, the Moon, and the Dawn is going to be the additional dining spaces, the
Correct.
additional public areas,
Yeah.
the extra space in the ship, and people are loving that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're also launching the SALT program. The SALT program
On
will
the
be
moon.
on the Silver Moon.
That's right.
It's sea and land taste, so it's all about the destination that you're visiting and the experience of the food and the cultures and bringing that back on board.
You know,
What
Audrey, I'm really glad you brought that up.
They
Yeah,
wanted to see that. They wanted to experience. We didn't have a restaurant that had that, where we went to those destinations and had that kind of food. So when we're in Greece, we're going to have Greek food. When we're in Asia, we'll be having Asian food. And we have the Salt Lab, the Salt Bar, and the Salt Lab will have cooking demonstrations and things like that, wine tastings with oysters from Croatia. It could be all kinds of things. So that is in the process of launching on the Silver Moon this year. And then it will go and move to all of the other ships. So that's an exciting thing too, because it is all about the food for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you know, I'm glad Audrey brought that up, because I think that as an industry, we've always told you, well, the menu changes as we deploy, and it will feature menu items from the places you visit, and then you open your menu, and very disappointingly, you find 1 or 2 items out of the 30 that may be available to you that are actually relevant to the destination you visited or are about to visit. And the reason for that is there's no dedicated galley really to make that kind of a commitment. Because the differences between ports in some places could be so vast and so different, and the palate of the customer on board and the expectation of the meal could be very different table to table, and it becomes very hard to execute our experience in that kind of a format. But when you dedicate an entire galley and an entire restaurant to this concept, now you have an entire menu that really changes as the deployment of the ships change and as the ship's regions change. And what you'll find is only 5 or 6 static items that don't change. We always need steak and potatoes, right? Some guys don't like to get very adventurous with their food in certain places. That's okay. But the overall choices that you'll find on the rest of the menu is going to be exactly what we promised, and I think we're going to be the first cruise line to really deliver that. You know, I think a lot of us have made that promise and really fallen short terribly a lot of times, and I think now we've finally got it together.
So perfect, and thank you for that. And I wanna point out there's a very unique type of itinerary that Silversea offers that no other cruise line offers in terms of a very long voyage type of itinerary. Tell us about it, Joe. You know what?
Well, I think you're alluding to our world cruise, our expedition world cruise, Carlos, and you're right. We call it the Uncharted expedition, and it was supposed to deploy and it was supposed to sail in 21. We have decided to postpone that. It's such a momentous voyage. It is so important to our brand and to our customers, and we want to make sure we're the first to deploy this itinerary. So we have postponed the Expedition World Tour, the Uncharted World Tour. We've postponed it into 2022, and we will execute it exactly as it was promised for 21.
We have 2 world cruises going on.
We also have, yes, we have a classic world cruise as well.
That one, first time ever to have 2 world cruises going on at the same time. One was going to be completely expedition. The other one was going to be classic, which is just your normal cruise. So we've moved the expedition to be 2022 just to make sure that we're going to be able to go to every single one of those ports. So
that's right. A lot of these places require special permits and permissions and negotiations with governments. We did not feel confident that we were going to get the secured permits and have had the right conversations with all of the governments that we need to right now in order to promise a sailing. So especially one of this magnitude, we want to make sure we do it. So 22 is when it is, and I'll show you what it looks like. I mean, it's 167 days, 107 destinations, 30 countries, And if you live in North America, you'll visit all 7 continents before you get back, because you're returning home to the 7th, and that's where you started. So
Wow.
take a look at what this looks like. It's you start from Ushuaia. This is almost a pole-to-pole world cruise. So you're kind of going diagonal across the world, right? And you're going to start in Ushuaia. We're going to take you then down to into the Chatterton Islands and into the Antarctic Peninsula, where you're going to spend about 4 days in the peninsula here, visiting the penguin colonies and the migrating whales. Before we leave the continent, we're going to head up her west coast. We're going to cruise into the Norwegian fjords, the Chilean fjords, on up into the Santiago area, before we head on out east and stop along the way at another Chilean port in Easter Island, and then all of these unbelievably remote and small islands along the way. I mean, look at this hops, and I won't dare butcher all of these or even but this is what I tell you. Yeah, it's right. That's right. French Polynesia. But this is where I tell you, working here is not just, great because we get to experience these places, but you learn about these places as we deploy and build these itineraries. And then up over the northern west coast of Australia, what that's going to allow us to do as we cruise over the north coast of Australia, over into its western coast, we're going to visit Darwin and take you into the Kimberley coast, and take you to visit the Kimberleys, which is some of the most beautiful landscaping and landscape you'll find anywhere in the world. Some of the most amazing topography, waterfalls that you can find there, and the native animals to Australia that are not just native to the continent, but are found only in that Kimberley region. So making them even more unique. As you can see, down into the Southeast Asia, and into the South Pacific, then down into India, as we come around from the Far East area, stopping in Luxor, through the canal, the Suez Canal, into the Med, before we make our way up the Riviera and to the northern countries, going into Reykjavik, and all the way up to the Norwegian fjords before we end your trip 167 days later in Tromsø. So you can see here, this is really unique. You're going to not only get to visit all 7 continents in one itinerary, you're going to visit both major fjord systems in the world under one itinerary and one sailing. You're also going to set foot on the land of fire and ice and go visit Iceland, and the beautiful city of Reykjavik and many of its surrounding ports. So, I mean, the wildlife you're going to see here, this isn't a world cruise to take you into busy, jam-packed places. We're taking you where no one else is. We are taking you on an expedition. This is an expedition, not an excursion.
You're visiting
make sure you keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, you're visiting the same regions that most other cruise lines visit, but you're visiting specific ports that really nobody else goes to, and that's what makes this very, very unique.
Yeah, and you really can't get in there, and quite frankly, the expectation of what you're going to see in that port, you're not going to see a Renaissance painting. That's not what we're taking you to see. We may take you to go sit in a grass hut with a local chief and talk about his local customs. That might be the neatest experience you may ever have. And that's the promise. And that's what we talk about destination. I mean, boy, I tell you, our customers' experience and expectation of experience has changed in the luxury world, right? Yeah. Had we tried to trek somebody through the mud 20 years ago when we started this, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But today, it's the experience they expect and that they demand from us, and it's some of the ones they hold most dear. And we still have the classic voyages. We can take you on the classic world cruise. We will take you to see the to the Med, to all the main museums and to all the main attractions. Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask the question that now, getting back to the whole conversation about the CDC, the question that most of our guests have: what can you tell us, Joe, about the future of cruising, about the future of cruising with Silversea?
Yeah.
We want to know about the financial health of the company. We want to know about, just give it to us.
Thank you. Yeah. So as far as our financial health, thankfully, we're among the strongest in the industry. Our parent company is Royal Caribbean International, and we have gone to great lengths and been very public on our actions to secure access to liquidity and cash to ensure that we can sustain operations, and we have, and we will, through this entire endeavor. We really have zero doubt that we are going to return to sailing and return to sailing soon. Currently, where we stand in terms of that, it's under negotiations. You know, I think we're working with world leaders, World Health Organizations, and our own CDC. The entire industry has come together, working together to set the standard. So what we're going through right now with the CDC is we're working to go through certain exercises and certain protocols to then put the ships to test to make sure that all this is ready to set sail. And once we get the all clear from the CDC, we will not set sail until we can make sure that we can deliver on all the promises that they expect, all the standards they expect, and exceed wherever we possibly can. You know, here's what's great about cruising, Carlos, and what many people here may not know. I've been saying this for 25 years. This is as long as I've been in this industry, and I learned it early on. A cruise ship is amongst the cleanest place on Earth. They're some of the cleanest places on Earth. Because we visit so many different places in the world, and because so many different authorities have so many different standards, the standard in which we set sail and how we sanitize and clean our ships is amongst the highest for any organization and institute in any industry anywhere. We are also among the only 3 industries in the United States that must self-report an illness. The other 2 are hospitals and adult living facilities, nursing homes, and cruise ships. That's it. So know this, folks, and something you may not already know, the cruise ship industry has been held to the highest standard of cleanliness for a long, long time. It will continue to be held to that high standard, and it will continue to deliver and exceed that high standard. And you could see that the reason I show you this ship here, the ships here in Tenerife, here you have the 4 ships. You've got the Spirit, the Whisper, Shadow, the Wind, the little guy in the middle, and then whatever's left over of the Whisper Shadow equation is on the end there. And the reason we lined them all up here, we did this early on, we did it in April, because we knew when we started to understand that there are going to be measures and procedures and distancings, measures that we have to put in place on the ship. But it was important that we know what that means to you and your experience. So what we did with the ships here is we lined them up and we started to share crew amongst them so that we could simulate real life on board. We started to fill them up with passenger cabins